Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jon GMAC, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Here to talk to one of the great softball players in New York sports history. I believe he also does occasional writing and reporting. I have to ask him about that. Fred Katz. Hello, sir.
Hello. I'll take
what a
one
text
of the great...
to get from you at what time was that? Like 3:30 yesterday?
Oh, dude. So we were the 15 seed out of 16 to make the playoffs. In spite of me being apparently the greatest softball player in New York City history, we were the 15 seed. We played on Monday because we play once a week normally. We got rained out last week.
This is the athletics team, right?
No, this is
like your personal
buddies.
bullshit. Okay,
this is my buddies. We got rained out on Wednesday, so we had to play Monday. Assumed we would lose, upset the 2 seed.
Wow.
And then everybody had plans on Wednesday for when the next round was. So we didn't have anyone. And so we didn't have anyone. So I texted people who were so much more out there than you. I texted a NBA head coach who I knew happened to be in New York City, not Tibbs. Who I knew happened to know it could be in New York City. I hit up a dude who I played baseball with in high school and have not spoken to since 2008. Okay. And he just responded, "Yo, long time." And I did everything. And then
you're scraping the bottom of the bat. So wait, did you find someone or someone's?
We needed 4 people, and so I tweeted it out. I was like, you know what? I might end up in a van, but I said I need people, and 4. I ended up getting 4 dudes, and I could have ended up in the back of a van, kidnapped, tied up in some warehouse right now. But it turned out they were all great dudes. One of them is a huge fan, Adam. Shout out to Adam. Showed up not just off of Twitter. Dude shows up 3 gloves, 10 balls, extra bats, equipment. He's there early. He's got
shout out to Adam.
Playing music. He's a huge KFS fan. So shout out to Adam. Great dude. Everyone was awesome. Everyone was awesome. Andrew, I should say, says in the chat, I didn't text everyone. That's true. I actually didn't text Andrew.
Well, listen,
I could have texted Andrew. I should have texted Andrew. Busy. Actually, you're a big baseball fan.
Not only am I a big baseball fan, Fred, you know this. Played softball from the time I was 16 until I was 30. Now, granted, very many waist size previous, so I would have been your catcher last night. But I just a text. Hey, Claudio, you're free. I know you used to play softball, but no. I'm just now that I'm married, I'm just off to the doldrums. Apparently,
you're actually totally right. I totally should have texted you. I don't know why. I was talking to John, and so it came up, but I don't think of you as a like it's a hike for you to get to Randall's Island. So I was just texting people who are in New York City.
For what it's worth, that I would not if I was in.
Even though John's not in New York City, but
John's in Brooklyn. I'm in Queens, which is closer to Randall's Island.
Oh, yeah. I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Welcome to a geography pod.
I guess you're in Queens. Well, I guess I don't know, dude. My mind was everywhere. You know what? Fuck it. I forgot about you. Sorry.
That's what happened. No.
Take a look at the bottom of the mug.
To the softball game.
Take a look at the bottom of the mug.
We're all
okay.
This is better than Pistons talk. I'll say that.
So yeah, Fred's text to me, do you play softball or are you any good at softball? And I don't think I said this in the text, but I've never played softball in my life, just FYI. So now you know, and now everybody knows. Let's talk about basketball. Or actually, no, let's not talk about basketball. Let's talk about the legal process. So you had some fresh reporting. Was it earlier this week? Yeah, sure. Let's go with earlier this week. One NBA team, which happens to play in New York, has sued another NBA team, which happens to play in Canada. So many different ways we could go with this. Let me start off with this. Are you at the point where it's like, I want to wait and see more information before formulating my, I don't want to say personal opinion, but like my stance on this as like someone who's a beat writer for the Knicks? Or have you, based on the information that has already been released, and perhaps more importantly, your own knowledge of the inner workings of the NBA for, having been gained over years and years of reporting on the league, is this the sort of thing where you already kind of have a feel for what this is, and perhaps more importantly, what this is not?
No, I honestly don't have a feel.
Okay.
I would say I'm waiting for a lot more information. I kind of think that's the only way you can think about it right now.
Okay.
Maybe we should sum up the lawsuit for those who don't know, because it is the end of August. And if you're following the Knicks, I would say, if you're listening to this podcast, I would say,
I assume
that like why are you listening? You know, like, it's August, go have fun.
Especially
it's
after all the softball talk. Why are you still listening? So yeah,
you know,
do you want to give it a shot?
I think we should sum it up. This is also like, I think it's fascinating, but if somebody saw this story and was like, I'll read it later, I wouldn't blame them. So, and it's really important. Like, it's really relevant. And it's like, it is crazy. Like, it is a crazy, crazy story. So, John, do you want to sum it up? You want me to sum it up?
I tried the other day, basically by saying, let's see if I could do an even better job this time, that a former Knick employee who worked on video and I guess analytics, we could put it under that umbrella, was hired away by the Raptors. And the Knicks are accusing both him and the people that hired him, including the Raptors' new head coach, of basically him, before leaving the Knicks, having a plan, which he executed, to take, I'll just say, proprietary information, whatever the stuff is that he was working on or had access to, and deliver it to the Raptors, I guess, while he was still employed by the Knicks. But my big takeaway from this is that I don't want to say the Raptors put him up to it, or more specifically, the new head coach of the Raptors put him up to it, but like, that seems to be the implication of what the Knicks are getting at here.
It's not the implication.
It's the accusation.
It is the accusation. Okay. Now, in the lawsuit, the Knicks say they have proof of emails, that they have proof of correspondences, of video clips that have been opened. We have beautiful company right now. I love this.
My daughter's listening. I wish she could hear this because she's fascinated by the legal process.
I'm sure. Two of the guys I got off Twitter for the softball team yesterday were actually lawyers. So,
there you go.
We could have had them
play softball.
Exactly. We could have had them on. They honestly probably could have given better analysis than me. But the Knicks flat out say, they call Ike Azatam, who's the guy who was a video coordinator with the Knicks and went to Toronto. They refer to him as, quote, a mole. And the accusation is that the lawsuit says that he went to the Raptors on August 14th, and that in the weeks leading up to it, he was at the direction. This is, again, the allegation, that he was at the direction of Raptors' new head coach, Darko Rajakovic. Now, the Knicks provide evidence.
I was avoiding it.
Now, the Knicks provide evidence that Azatam allegedly forwarded 2 emails from his company account with the Knicks to his personal Gmail. They say that they have evidence. I shouldn't say they provide evidence.
I was about to say
they evidence.
They allege that they
provide it. Yeah. I mean, you're the lawyer, so I
explained that part of it the other day. A complaint. The complaint is the kitchen sink. Anything that you think you might have doesn't have to be true, but anything you think you might have, you put in the complaint, and then you let the process sort itself out.
Exactly, because what you do is you put out everything, and you have discovery, and then you go into discovery, and that's when you get to find out other stuff. They don't actually have. They provide a lot of allegations of motivation. You know, that Rajakovic was behind this, that Azatam was acting as a mole. There's no actual proof provided in the lawsuit of motivation. And I think that's something that, if it gets to discovery, that's something that we'd learn more about, how real those accusations are. That's something we would learn more about if it gets to discovery, if it even gets to that point. It is such a weird story. Can I read you a text that I got from a high-ranking front office person?
I would love nothing more than for you to do that.
The text says, Knicks Film School is terrible. Why are you going on that podcast? No, it says
it's a different thing.
This is from a high up front office person who's very smart, who I respect a lot. Not with the Knicks, not with the Raptors, I'll say. Says, texted me this week, said, I'm fascinated by the Knicks Raptors story. I said, it's crazy. The person said, I'm not surprised by Toronto, but I'm baffled by the Knicks. And I said, how so? Person said, why would they make this a lawsuit? It seems like something that could have been easily handled with the Raptors behind the scenes. Fire a few people and call it a day. I don't know what they're going to win as an outcome. That's one perspective. I have had other people who I've spoken to in the league who are baffled by the allegations against Toronto. They're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I find that different NBA organizations operate differently. You talk to some people and they're like, some people say, all right, well, when people leave organizations, they just kind of take their work with them and they go. And it's pretty normal.
I want to key in on that, but finish what your thought is because I want to go back to that.
And you talk to other people who work in different organizations. I find that it tends to have a similar relationship to the more restrictive ones because different organizations operate differently. You get a team like, Miami Heat or the San Antonio Spurs who are notoriously just like, totally buttoned up, totally secretive, and then you get other teams that are more open about stuff or more relaxed about that kind of stuff. And I've spoken to some people from the tighter lip teams, and those people who only really know those cultures or believe in those cultures the most because it's where they are kind of like, they're like, yeah, the Knicks, if this is real, the Knicks have a real case here. I will say, I think it came together. I read that text specifically because I did think it was an interesting perspective of being like, why the lawsuit now? Because the Knicks say in that lawsuit that Azatem left on August 14th. The lawsuit was filed August 21st. The Raptors say in their statement that the Knicks contacted them on Thursday. August 14th was a Monday. The lawsuit was filed on Monday, August 21st. The Raptors say in their statement that the Knicks contacted them on Thursday, which means, and the Raptors say that they responded, that they were, taking it seriously and looking into it or whatever, to paraphrase, right? That means the Knicks gave the Raptors one business day to look into the whole thing. I know that they put together this lawsuit like over the weekend leading up to that Monday. Like this was a work all weekend to get this thing out thing. And that is, I don't know. It's just, I'm not saying it's.
Are you sure about that last part?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to this may have been in the works for a while?
Yes. Okay. I mean, there might have been rumblings. There might have been people who had suspicions for a while.
Okay.
Like in terms of like being like, this is turning into a lawsuit. It happened really quickly. I don't know if on like August 9th or August 4th, there were people with the Knicks being like, I'm suspicious of stuff going on here. There might have been people who noticed stuff going on because, for example, the lawsuit alleges that the Knicks sent, the reason there are like John Does in the lawsuit, like there are 10 John Does in the lawsuit. For those who don't know, that's just people who are not named. And there aren't
actually because you don't know their names, but you believe you have reason to believe that there are other people involved.
Right. There aren't actually 10 people who work for the Raptors named John Doe. But yeah, like the Knicks allege that, like, for example, they have video clips which they're able to track and see, accounts that open them. The Knicks allege that that emails and their whatever they were, I think video clips were accessed by outside people, not with the Knicks. And they want to trace that as part of the lawsuit once they get into it. So like there's just a lot that we don't know. And it really is crazy. If what the Knicks are alleging is true, it's crazy. And by the way, John, have you thought about like, if this goes down, have you thought about how crazy it would be if this goes to like a civil trial, which,
oh my God. I mean, it'll never get there.
Who knows if it does? Right. You say it'll never get there. A lot of people say it'll never get there.
It won't get there.
But you know what's a really interesting
The league
point?
wouldn't allow it. I don't mean the league can actually stop the legal process, but like never, the league would not allow it.
Okay.
They would do. You agree?
Things.
Yeah. What?
I don't know if I agree. I just don't know. Like that's my first reaction. The league won't allow it. However, I have been given the NBA a lot of time to get back to me with a statement, as I'm sure other reporters have too. The NBA is yet to say anything. I would bet a really good amount of money the NBA was totally taken by surprise by this lawsuit. I did not think they saw this coming. I don't think the Toronto Raptors saw this coming. I think this thing came out. Everyone was like, what? I think the league was surprised by this. I think they're probably formulating a plan. And the other reaction that I have to this is, okay, the Knicks are alleging that the Raptors violated, or that the defendants violated the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act.
Mm-hmm.
And that all defendants also violated the Defend Trade Secrets Act. Those are criminal charges.
Yeah. Which, by the way,
means if the Knicks take this into civil court, it could, and they find enough, if it just goes to discovery and there's enough evidence, then it could take on a life of its own that's actually outside of civil court. Right?
And
John, what's the likelihood?
We should know, for anybody who is not who just doesn't care about the legal process, nothing that happens in civil court, you could find in civil court that a person committed 18 axe murders. It can't put them in jail because it's in civil court. It's criminal. A criminal case is a completely separate thing. Whether, as you're indicating, can I read that, Andrew?
Yes. Andrew said, like OJ.
Yes, like OJ Simpson. He lost the civil trial.
Yes, he did.
He owes the Goldmans like $100 million.
Yes, he does.
They have never gotten.
No, and they I don't think they're getting that anytime soon. Anyway, yeah. If in theory someone could look at the goings on here and decide to start a criminal case. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of ways to go. Can I tell you something I'm so fascinated about? And you're probably right. These things don't actually go to a civil trial for the most part. But
when you're dealing with rational actors, they often don't. But I'll get back to that. Continue.
That's part of why I'm like, I don't know what the motivations are. Because here's the thing that I think is interesting. I will say, just to give this point more credence, this is not a thing I thought of on my own. I have a good buddy who is a successful lawyer with an expertise in litigation, and is also a giant Knicks fan.
Okay.
And he made this point to me.
I have a funny feeling I know what this is going to be, but because it's the same thought. What? You
want to take a guess?
Well, again, this is just me sitting here, former lawyer and big Knicks fan. If wrongdoing was committed by the Raptors against the Knicks, if I'm a Knicks fan, my first thought, as was the first thought of many people on Twitter, was, wow, I wonder if the Knicks could get a draft pick out of this. This is not the way to get a draft pick. The way to get a draft pick is to go through the league and let the league do what it's going to do and then hash out a penalty, which could result in the Knicks getting something from the Raptors. This is not that. So to me, I wonder, well, wouldn't it, if you're trying to benefit your team as opposed to just smear another organization who you have a history of perhaps not having great relations with, wouldn't you go a different route? What were you going to say?
That's not what I was going to say, but it's a super interesting point. I'm glad you said it.
Well, anyway,
this is why they give you a podcast,
and they could take it away anytime. What did your lawyer friend? What was his theory?
He was like, it's really interesting because the Knicks are the ones bringing the suit, but the Knicks are also the ones who shouldn't want it to go to trial the most. And the reason why is because he says the Knicks are basically saying this stuff that you took is proprietary. This is proprietary information. But a lot of the things that they actually took, for example, like for those who don't know, what the Knicks are alleging is like that they took video playlists off of Synergy. Okay. Now, Synergy is this big database that every single team has access to. The same video clips, the same stats, Now, what you do with those video clips, what you do with those stats is what makes it unique, right? So they might be compiling the video clips in a unique way. They might be, they might be categorizing them in a unique way to look up plays and that kind of stuff. They might be editing them in a unique way, whatever. There might be something I'm not even thinking about. And everybody knows how secretive the Knicks are. And everybody knows how secretive Tibbs is about stuff. And trust me, I know how secretive Tibbs is because I sit there trying to ask him what makes his coaching unique, trying to learn about the process of coaching, all of that basically every single day from October to May. And he doesn't answer me. And I still don't know the answers. And I ask him every day something that's like coaching process thing. And he doesn't want to answer it. And I keep prying and I keep prying and I keep prying. And I'm like, Tibbs, just teach me. It'll make my writing better. And then I'll ask. I said to him once in a press conference, I was like, if you tell me, I'll be a little smarter and then I won't have to ask such terrible questions.
Yeah.
And then he laughed and he didn't answer the question. And so like Tibbs, if this goes to trial, the Knicks are going to have to provide evidence, not just that the Raptors took something, but that the Raptors took something that was proprietary, because that's the allegation. And that means they are going to have to prove they are doing something unique. Now, that might be easy to do because they might be doing something unique, but it means they're going to have to reveal all their secrets. So an organization that is so upset with another organization for finding out some of its secrets is going to have to then reveal under oath on the record even more of its secrets to everyone in the world. So it just seems like something that is counterintuitive to how the Knicks normally operate. Also, Leon Rose getting deposed. I could just see him being like, sorry, I don't do interviews.
These are the points that you're raising, and perhaps the point I raised a second ago, what I thought your friend was going to say. These are all the sorts of things that come out in a measured, very low stakes meeting amongst the minds of powers that be, so to speak, in which they're like, okay, something happened here. Let's rationally go through the pluses and minuses about what are the different ways that we could go about addressing this thing that happened, as opposed to James Dolan shouting at the top of his lungs, I want those MFers sued by Monday. And if that lawsuit isn't on my desk for approval by Monday, you're all fired and I'm going to hire another law firm that can do it by Tuesday. Which is what I think happened. And you referenced the speed with which this happened. That would make sense to me if what indeed took place was James Dolan. Now, what originally happened, because at some point Dolan's antenna went off. Whether it's they got wind that this guy was going to be hired by the Raptors, or the fact that an employee of the Knicks was going to work for the Raptors, and that was all it took. Whatever, there was an inciting incident, and I wonder if it's going to come out what that inciting incident is. But to me, the most interesting thing that you've said so far is something that I think Seth Partnow was implying in his tweet, which is like something along the lines of like one NBA team sues another team for doing something that everybody does. Is like a lot of teams out there look at this and be like you take your work with you when you leave. Because I'll connect it to another thing that you said, which is you find most interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong here. The motivations behind it, because to me, without the motivational aspect and without the conspiracy aspect, I'm not literally a conspiracy, but they're kind of alleging a conspiracy. Without the head coach put him up to this, and the Toronto Raptors put him up to this, and this, as opposed to starting a new job, I'm just going to send some shit that I need. Without that part of it, this is all very ridiculous. Now, if that part, which I think you were getting at, which all the people that texted you were like, wow, if they could prove all this, then holy crap, because that gets at the motivations, the conspiracy aspect. Without that aspect of it, what are we really talking about here? As I see it, I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. That's kind of why I say I don't know how this is going to go, and I don't know to what stage this is going to go to, and I don't really know how to evaluate this completely. Yeah, I mean, you're right. And also to give just kind of some inside baseball stuff, what a video coordinator does, and Azadam, the guy who left, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. I hope so.
I won't correct you.
But Azadam, who left the Knicks for the Raptors, the former video coordinator for the Knicks, what the video coordinator does is like he's responsible for those synergy playlists and that kind of stuff. So like when you take a synergy playlist, something like that, that was in all likelihood, that was either compiled by him or one of his colleagues in the video room. That's who does that stuff. That is what you do. So, you know, with the information provided in the lawsuit, you could come up with an equally plausible story for some of this stuff that he took. For example, the Knicks allege that he took the scouting report from Game 82 against the Pacers. From the information in the lawsuit, you can come up with a similar story just by the evidence that's provided there. And there might be more evidence that we don't know yet that will come up later. But just by the information that's
allegations.
Yes, the allegations. Sorry. The evidence they say they have. Yes. Thank you. Saving my ass from getting sued. So
be careful.
Yeah, exactly. But from the evidence that the Knicks say they have, you can provide an equally likely story for some of these actions that, okay, he had to do some Pacers film work for the Raptors. So we thought, I just did this. The Knicks played the Pacers literally the last game of the season. This is as up to date as it can possibly be. I don't want to rip all of these same video clips off of this same website and make the exact same series of clips and scouting videos. When I already did this, I'm just going to grab this and give it to him. It's my work. I did it. So like that's an equally plausible story based on the evidence the Knicks say they have. We'll see what else comes up. That's also not the only allegation. There's allegations of contacts before he actually left the Knicks on August 14th. Him forwarding emails and that kind of stuff.
Which, by the way, he left the Knicks on August 14th. He left the Knicks because he had this job, which he was offered the job and he accepted the job.
Right.
Which means
the lawsuit. Yeah. The lawsuit says that he informed the Knicks of an offer from the Raptors on or around July 25th. That's what the lawsuit says.
And he gave us 2 weeks, right? Or whereabouts, right? So like, again, this happens with every person who has ever gotten a new job in the history of jobs has had contact with their new employer at some point before leaving their old job, and like, again, it would seem completely and totally normal to me that for over that 2 weeks for him to spend some of that time being like, all right, let me not have to reinvent the wheel and let me send myself whatever I need. And again, what would put it, forget about over the top, what would turn it from nothing into a big something would be this master plan conspiracy thing from the part of the Raptors. And I'll just go back to what you said at the top. I would love to know how the Knicks plan on proving any of that part of it. But I don't know. They say they have the goods.
They'll need to get correspondence from the other side. They'll need to be able to see contact records. And, if the Raptors, someone with the Raptors put it in a text message to somebody, if somebody of the Raptors put it in an email to somebody, then all of a sudden they've got a little something. But if they didn't put it in writing, it's going to be, better than I. It's really hard to prove motivation. It's a lot easier to prove actions than it is to prove motivations.
I'm just picturing. Did you order the code red, Masai? Goddamn right, I did.
I know everybody who I've spoken to is just like, it's not going to go to trial. I know everybody says that. I do. I just like, okay. I just can't.
I know.
I just can't even imagine what it would be like if the Knicks were like, okay, so we're deposing Rajakovic and Masai and Bobby Webster. Everybody's in on it. And then the Raptors were just like, okay, fine. We're deposing James Dolan.
Well,
He's bringing the suit. We're deposing James Dolan, and now you have James Dolan under oath, and you have Leon Rose under oath, and you have
just stop at James Dolan. Stop at James Dolan under oath. I have to run. We're gonna do something a little untraditional on this. Andrew's actually I'm gonna tap in Andrew because he feels so hurt about not getting tapped in for softball. I'm gonna tap him in to finish this podcast for me. The last thing I'll say is, knowing what we know about how reasonable of a guy James Dolan is and how easy it is to rationally talk to him about things that might actually be in his best interest, I'm sure it's going to be a totally easy conversation, whether it's between Adam Silver and James Dolan, whether it's between one of James Dolan's CEOs of, the guard, all that, talking to him about here's why we need to actually settle this, or here's why we can't go forward with this because whatever. That conversation is going to need to happen unless there are requisite damages that James Dolan is okay with accepting as part of whatever it is, a settlement or something where the league steps in. Good luck convincing him to, not get his day in court. That's all I'll say. If he believes he's in the right, that's the key. And I imagine he does. So
it's part of the reason why I say I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. There's been crazier stuff in Knicks history than this. Charles Oakley is way crazier than this.
I mean, there's look, let's just call it spit. There's stuff on the record from the I talk about mispronouncing names. Annika Brown Saunders, right? That's her name.
Yeah,
that's out there. You could argue that the stuff that is on record from that is the most embarrassing thing that has been associated with the Knicks in their history. You could argue that. I'm not saying that necessarily is, but you could argue that some of the stuff that came out. What would come out with this, even though they are the ones obviously doing the accusing as opposed to the ones being accused? All right. Fred, it's been lovely. Do you mind that I pass you off to Andrew?
It sounds honestly preferable.
I take no offense.
I believe they call this a pinch hit, John.
Sure, let's go with that. Pinch run, pinch hit.
You don't tap in softball.
Yeah.
I think Andrew, you're more of a reliever, but you're not.
I'm not pinch runner. You're right. I'm not pinch running.
No, this is more you're coming in relief. John was the starter, and 4 2/3
innings.
You got rocked then. Damn.
Six earned runs.
Not nowadays. No, 4 2/3 innings is
that's just an opener. Yeah, that's
yeah, exactly. That's not even an opener. That's just that's your innings eater right there. You're good to go. 4 2/3 innings is basically
almost a quality start.
That's Joe Negro.
All right, I'm leaving you with the bases.
Piling up 300 innings.
All righty.
Take care, boys.
My only real question about this is, you said you talked to some other teams and some other franchises about this. Is their reaction at all what are the Knicks doing? This is crazy. Or is it more in the case of oh, like you said, they might have a case here and they're they're doing their due diligence. What's the reaction to what the Knicks did here?
I think everybody thinks it's crazy in the definition of crazy, where it's whoa, this doesn't happen. Normally you go through the league if you think something like this is happening. If the Dallas Mavericks think that the Knicks tampered with Jalen Brunson, they go to the league. They don't sue the Knicks, and then the Knicks lose a second round draft pick or something. That's how this normally goes. If the Patriots are pulling off Spygate, you go to the NFL. You're not Eric Mangini isn't suing Rex Ryan. It was Eric Mangini was the coach then, right? Rex Ryan isn't suing Bill Belichick. He's definitely not suing Rex Ryan.
Yeah, the Spygate stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just that's, I think, the part that has made everybody go, whoa, I don't know how this is going to be handled. I do think what's interesting is by going to court, I mean, the Knicks are suing for damages, right? And they're going to have to put a monetary number on what is a scouting report worth. They allege that he took play frequency reports. They're going to have to put a monetary number. This is what we value a play frequency report on. And as a huge geek, I'd love to know that number. What do the Knicks think that is worth? Because I bet Tibbs thinks that's worth more than life. And I would just love to be in that room when a lawyer says, no, it's actually worth this. And Tibbs says, no, it's worth more than your house. And I just am dying. There's so many weird eccentricities that could come out of this if it comes close to going the distance, even though it very well may not.
Listen, could there be a kangaroo court type of deal where James Dolan and Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau are deposed and have to say stuff under oath and it'd be hilarious? Sure. That's a timeline that we can explore. One of those restrained timelines, but if Leon Rose is deposed, I am slipping questions to the Raptors lawyer under the table just to get him. Like all the questions I've wanted to ask over the last 3 years. Just be like, hey, Leon, why did you want to use the MLE so badly this year that you put Josh Hart to an increasing contract and have him pick up a player option as opposed to re-signing him to a decreasing one? Be like, that has nothing to do with this case. Be like, I know, but Fred slipped it to me. I think the end game of it all is weird because in the two examples you used, the Spygate and Deflategate, the NFL examples, or even when whomever brought up the Astros stuff, they were breaking like rules of play. Like those are the rules they were breaking. This is breaking the law that the Knicks are
allegedly.
Well, but that's what's being alleged. Like those allegations they were breaking the rules of the sport, which aren't like you don't go to jail for stealing signs. Now, I don't even know what the end game is here because it's civil court. It's not criminal court. So that's why the monetary value, like you're talking about, I don't understand. It's why I understand Jon's frustration that this going about the way that it has is, if anything, just a distraction and leads to one of the two questions I have for you that have nothing to do with
what if the Knicks are just suing for OG Anunoby?
That's the thing.
The Raptors wouldn't trade him. The Raptors wouldn't trade him, and they were like, "We're getting them this way."
So, I mean, I know there are fans that are thinking this. Does this officially put the kibosh on any? Because Jeremy did a long cap or no cap on Sunday, just kind of putting the breadcrumbs together about if the Knicks haven't extended IQ, and based on your report that they were in conversations about not trying to trade IQ, but they did bring him up in conversations with, as I believe the report you put out there in the Athletic.
They did.
So as a result, the dots that were connected is that IQ for Anunoby now and the salary to match would make sense before the season. Now, the merits of doing that are not what I'm trying to talk about, but does this officially put the kibosh that the defendant and the accuser are not going to make a trade for one of the franchise's players that doesn't want to get traded?
I have no clue what kind of effect it would have on that.
Really? You still think that like we got court on Monday, but in the courtroom lobby, we're going to negotiate a trade for Anunoby?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
I just have no idea. I don't know, man. Like the NBA doesn't even know what to say about this thing yet. Like I don't know what we're going to see from this. Like for all we know, this is a petty thing between a few people and everybody else is like, okay, let's get this over with. For all we know, everyone with the Knicks is pissed at the Raptors and everyone with the Raptors is pissed at the Knicks. If it's the latter, then yeah, that's going to be tough because trades often happen because of personal relationships. That's kind of why you see a lot of teams make trades together. When I was covering the Wizards, they would trade with the Lakers all the time. Other teams don't like each other, don't get along. Think the other one maybe like the other team, but they think they're annoying to negotiate with. So they're just not going to call them. Honestly, the dynamics between NBA front office people aren't that different between us and our friends in our fantasy leagues. There's that random annoying friend that we have who is going to offer us the worst trades in our fantasy baseball league and just be like, I will give you Levon Hernandez for Wilbur Wood. Isn't that an amazing fantasy baseball league that I'm in, by the way, where you can trade Levon Hernandez for Wilbur Wood? It's like, no. I don't want that innings eater for this innings eater. This inning eater is awesome. That one is just an innings eater. So like you get annoyed with that dude who offers the trades. Like there are people like that in the NBA who I hear about. And they're like, oh, this guy just calls up, offers the worst trades, and that's it. And like there are other people who are here. Oh, I like negotiating with that guy. Just reasonable and tries to make a trade that works better for everybody. And sometimes those are the people you see make the most trades. That was always what I heard about Tommy Shepard when he was running the Wizards, actually, was that Tommy was like very reasonable and amenable. And if you look at his time with the Wizards, he actually, I believe he made the most multi-team trades of any GM in the league. And part of the reason why was because Tommy, I talked to him about it. Like he was very communicative with other teams. Like his big thing was knowing like, okay, he would call every team all the time and be like, what do you need? What do you want? What are your priorities? Tell me. And then if I see something, like I'll pop in. And he would do that and they'd have lists and all that kind of stuff. And teams, I think a lot of teams knew, okay, we have our trade worked out. We have this trade between the two of us worked out, but we need a third team to make the money work. We don't want someone who is just going to be like, okay, well, for me to take on this guy to make the money work, I'm going to need a unprotected first round pick. No, we don't want that. It's just going to be an annoying process. It's going to take forever to get this deal done. Let's call Tommy Shepard. He's easy and reasonable, and Tommy will pop in. So there were a lot of 3-team trades where the Wizards would just like pop in as the third team, where they'd pop in as the third team and take Davis Bertans, or pop in as the third team and take Mo Wagner and Isak Bonga, or make the largest trade in NBA history, which was the Westbrook trade. More pieces in that trade than any trade in NBA history. It was a 5-team deal. It was insanely hectic night to cover stuff. So you see that kind of stuff happen. And the reason that I bring that up is because if this is just a thing between the individuals involved, and that's really it, and Masai and Leon and Gerson Rosas and everybody else with the Knicks and Bobby Webster, they're all just like, we're going to do what's best for basketball. And I see a world where that actually doesn't really affect things. So I don't know. I need to be around it more. I need to let it marinate more. I need to see how this thing develops before I have any idea. So I also don't think the Raptors have really had any traction on an OG trade anywhere.
Well, or a Pascal trade from what you read and you hear about. They want to run it back. And I think that's where I go to, where you kind of laid the breadcrumbs when you did the live stream with us before free agency opened, when someone said, like, name 5 players that you guarantee would be on the Knicks next season. And you named the 4 obvious ones. And the 5th one, to give a wild card, you said OG. And that's where we originally okay, that means he's being discussed and that the Knicks are interested. So I've obviously connected the dots. I would like OG Anunoby on my basketball team. You know from our group chat that I don't want to trade Immanuel Quickley under any circumstances, but I would understand an Immanuel Quickley for OG Anunoby trade, specifically the finances involved as well, with IQ potentially wanting to start and then extend off of a year starting, which leads to one of my 2 questions. So first of all, how seriously did the Knicks quote unquote shop IQ from what you said in The Athletic? Were they were they not close on an extension?
I didn't say they shopped him.
Okay, so clarify. What were the trade talks with Immanuel Quickley? They
talked with other teams about trades. It's funny that you mentioned the mailbag because I actually wasn't reporting that exclusively for the mailbag. I'd had something earlier in the summer, and that was really what I was referencing. Mm-hmm. But
that's when I read it though.
I
had a big event happen this summer, so I may have only caught it then.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
They had conversations with other teams this summer, which about sending Quickley to another team for a very good veteran. And I know that happened a couple of times, at least.
I have to ask, are you willing to say who the veteran is, or you just want to say very good veteran?
I have to say very good veteran.
Okay.
They have to say very good veteran in both cases. But I mean, that was a thing.
Yeah.
So their priorities had changed from where they were at last fall, which was like in November, before Quickley really had that incredible run for really the last like 60 games of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They were legit trying to trade him. That was when they were like trying to trade Quickley. They were calling around. They were making offers for other teams. They were gauging his market. They wanted to see how good of a first round pick they could get back for him. They were worried about him getting expensive. They didn't see how he fit into their future in the most ideal way. Like that was when they were trying to trade Quickley. I would not say they were trying to trade Quickley this summer. I would say they were trying to trade for a really good player who could help them now. And in order to get a really good player who can help you now, you have to give up something.
Mm-hmm.
And Quickley is very good and looked at around the league as a very good 23-year-old guard who's coming off of a runner-up 6 Man of the Year campaign. And there are certainly people in the league who believe that he can jump up and kind of have some sort of, I mean, people say like a Jalen Brunson leap. I don't think they necessarily always mean, maybe some of them do. Maybe I shouldn't speak for them, but I don't think all of them mean that like he will become as good as Jalen Brunson, but just like you give him his own team, you let him run his own team, and all of a sudden you're like, crap, this guy is really good. And then he's averaging 20 and whatever. And you're like, this guy is really good. And there are definitely people around the league who believe that to be true. So you could make him the best player in a trade for a very good veteran. And to be clear, I will clarify that the very good veterans are not, they're not like super old or anything. They're just like they're not like rookie scale guys.
It's why
they're prime age vets.
But it's why we made the connection with OG Anunoby. That's a very good veteran. You know,
it's a very good veteran.
Yeah.
It's a very good veteran. So I would not classify it as the Knicks were trying to trade Quickley.
Okay.
At all.
They were looking to upgrade the roster spot.
They're looking to upgrade, and they know that in order to do that, Quickley might be their best chance to do it. And I do think they are trying to hold on to their best draft picks for the exact reason that everybody can guess, because that is, they believe, their method to going out and getting a star. And if they, I think, can find a way to bring in a very good veteran and then also still have enough and go get a super duper star, I think they'd be very, very happy with that. So that's really, I think, the better context of the Quickley thing. Do I think it's possible they trade him? Like it's better. There's a greater than 0% chance, but it's already August, man. Like a lot of the stuff that's going to happen, you see a September trade. You see James Harden get traded to the Houston Rockets in September. You see Melo get traded on Rosh Hashanah.
Training camp. Yeah, day before training camp.
On Rosh Hashanah weekend. I think on Rosh Hashanah got traded.
Might have been.
A new year and a new start for Carmelo Anthony. One day before, I was sitting in that room and Eric Horn asked him if he'd come off the bench. And he said,
Who, me? Yeah. I was still very blinded by, you probably should have come off the bench, Melo. I was very, of course. He's not coming off the bench. It's Carmelo Anthony we're talking about. Yeah, he was 22 last year. Okay.
Scream to Paul George in the corner of the room. Yo, P, they say I got to come off the bench.
So some rapid fire before I let you get out of here. So Immanuel Quickley will be extended before training camp. Yes or no?
I would say if he's still... Okay, I would say if Quickley is still on the team before training camp or before he's eligible for the extension.
When is he eligible?
He's eligible for the extension until the day before the start of the regular season. So I think that's saying before October 23rd.
Camp. I'm saying before training camp.
Oh, no, because normally if you're not extended by now, you get the extension in October.
Okay, so
I'll say no.
Immanuel Quickley gets extended before the deadline. Yes or no?
So it's either October 22nd or 23rd. If he's still on the roster, I would think an extension would make the most sense. So I'll say greater than, if I have to choose yes or no, I'll say yes, but I'm not like 100% on yes. I'm like 60% on yes.
Okay.
I do think that's the most likely scenario. But who knows what happens?
Yes or no, the Knicks make another impactful roster move before opening night.
Does extending Quickley count?
No. Like this,
no.
I'm saying like, okay. So this
like changing the players.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yes or no, Dame Lillard will be in Portland on opening night.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And he'll play. That dude's not showing up. That dude's showing up the first day of training camp and taking lead of the team. Like, he's not.
Yes or no?
Damian Lillard.
James Harden is on a different team on opening night.
No.
Okay. So then this leads into the last question. Yes or no? Because James Harden is about to Ben Simmons this season, we're like less than a year away from the Joel Embiid trade demand.
Less than a year.
I'm saying like it could happen in February.
You're gonna get me aggregated, man.
Fred, yes or no? You can say no.
Fred Katz of The Athletic reports that Joel Embiid will demand a trade within the next year.
You could say, okay, yes. So we're Fred. Okay, you heard it here.
But I don't know. Don't aggregate that. I don't know. I'm literally.
I just asked the question, here. Fred. I don't know.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the Harden thing really has the potential to annihilate everything in its path.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, like Embiid is, look, I don't know Joel Embiid, so I'm projecting my own emotions onto this.
Right.
And I know people who do know Joel Embiid. And those people have told me that like he thinks being like a one franchise guy is a really cool thing. And that's always been his first choice. I've also been told that like, yeah, he's thought about the Knicks. You know, like I don't think that's a secret. I think a million people have reported that. And I think those reports are true. Now, thought about the Knicks and demanded a trade are like a million steps away from each other.
Right.
So, I mean, he might have thought about some other teams too. I think it's extremely possible as well. But, you know, everybody knows he's got the relationship with Leon Rose, who used to be his agent. And that is a big market dude. You know, that's a guy who wants to have his own team, who wants to be the guy in the place. I think he would handle New York quite well. And it would be very interesting to see how the Knicks tried to pull that off. But we're many steps away. But yeah, I mean, if the Harden situation just kills and Embiid just had the Simmons one and the Sixers tank, or the Sixers end up trading Harden and they get nothing and they're just not good. Like everybody says, oh, they can move forward next year and they can just have a couple of max slots. It's like, first of all, kind of like Zach Lowe outlined this on his podcast maybe a month ago or so. Like, yeah, they can have two 25% max slots.
Yeah.
They can't have two 35% max slots. So not really.
Which at this point in Embiid's prime, you're not gonna sell him on 225% max slots, you know?
Yeah. Also, how are you getting 225% max slot guys? Those are all restricted free agents. You're not getting them. If there's a guy who's a clear, awesome max guy, then he already signed his extension.
Right.
You know? Like then it's like you're not like the guys who would be free agents and are 25% max guys are like Anthony Edwards, who already signed his extension, and if he didn't sign an extension for some insane reason, then Minnesota would just would they just match? They wouldn't just let him leave. So those guys, you're not even getting those guys. Also, if you're Embiid and let's say you trade Harden and you get expirings back and that's it. And now all of a sudden the Sixers go through a season where they're just fine. And whatever they are, whether they're a 45-win team or a 35-win team, they're not a title contender for any point of the season because they just got expirings and maybe a couple of picks for Harden from the Clippers or something like that. I just don't think the promise of max slots, even one max slot, always does that much. You don't really see free agents change that much. Guys sign extensions. We see it happen in trades. The Sixers don't have that much to offer up in a trade if they want to pair somebody with Embiid. I could see him looking around being like, oh, cool. Is this max slot going to run a pick and roll with me? Yeah. That's how players think. And it's not like Embiid he had a lot of years cut off from his career. It's not like he's 29. It's not like he is 29, right?
Yeah,
it's 29. Not like
I'll be 30 before the season ends. Yeah,
exactly. Who knows how much time he has left? He might be like, I got to go do something else for me. So I don't know. Also on the table, that the Sixers are just really good again.
If they were to get a lifeline and it's like Tyrese Maxey takes a leap and he's a guy that can be a number 2 or just
that's on the table
in a rotate. I'm not going to rule against it, but my point is they need a lifeline here because like you said, the torpedo that is James Harden has now made this into a situation where people are now looking for what the next iteration of this team will look like and not how good can the Sixers be this year. Crazy how much changed since Game 5 against the Celtics when they were up 3-2. Yeah. Or
maybe Daryl Morey pulls this off and they trade Harden, but they actually get a good return and they bring back, I don't know, Norm Powell and Terrence Mann and 2 first-round picks from the Clippers. And then they take those 2 first-round picks and they're able to trade those 2 firsts for a really good big wing. And now all of a sudden you've got shooters and really good role players surrounding Embiid in an Embiid-centric offense. You've got good defenders there. Maxey takes a leap, which I don't think is hopeful, honestly. I think that's just what's going to happen. He's a really, really good 23-year-old. Those guys tend to continue to get better. He is already really good and he will become really, really good. I think I have little doubt that's going to happen. Maxey takes a leap and just becomes a really phenomenal offensive guard. And you have a team that plays like team basketball, and Nick Nurse is a fantastic coach. And you have a team who plays just like great team basketball, has a superstar, and wins 54 games because of it. And now all of a sudden you have this Sixers team that instead of playing the ugly basketball of Ben Simmons and Embiid and the foul drawing basketball of Harden and Embiid, now all of a sudden you have this Sixers team that plays a more kind of pure game, and they're successful because of it. And maybe they make the conference finals, or maybe they get to the second round and Embiid's I feel good about this. That's on the table too. Yeah. James Harden, what gets lost in all of this is that James Harden is still awesome.
When he plays.
He's still awesome.
But when he plays.
Yes. And before he demands out of your organization. But my point is, he demands out everywhere. And it always ends the same way. And there are a lot of people in the league who are super conscious of that and are very cautious of interest in him because of it. And he has made it abundantly clear he wants to go to the Clippers. And so everybody who's not the Clippers is like, oh man, what happens if he were to come to us?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying, all it takes is one. All it takes is one. And one to say, it could be us. Maybe it could be us. Because James Harden, while he's not an MVP anymore, and he's not that level, is still awesome. He's one of the 5 best passers in the NBA, and that might be short selling. He is a phenomenal passer and facilitator. Unbelievable. He is still a really good scorer. He's not the level of scorer that he used to be. He does not get to the rim the way that he used to. He does not get to the line the way that he used to. But he still does it well. And what he does do well is he gets to the paint really well, which doesn't always get him to the line as much as he once did when he was getting to the line 11 times a game or get him to the rim, but he creates corner threes. He creates standstill threes. Like his assists are really good assists. We talk about shot selection. His assist selection is fantastic because he's creating, you're laughing at me, but it's really a thing.
This has now become a James Harden podcast. I know how good he is.
But it's relevant. No, but I'm saying people crap on James Harden. People crap on James Harden because of the
honest, so
you don't know.
So I apparently do need to
because he has the playoff woes, which are totally legitimate. Like he has the playoff woes, like that. I agree with all the red flags. All I'm saying is that you're not some idiot if you're just like, screw it. James Harden is awesome. Let's pursue this thing.
It's a non-basketball related question.
If you're the Miami Heat and you're just like, you find out you're just not getting Lillard, it's just not going to happen. And you're just like, screw it. We believe so much in our culture that we're going to go get James Harden. Maybe they give up something for Harden, or maybe the 76ers say, okay, Clippers, you really want Harden now? You're going to have to up your offer. We finally have leverage. The Heat are after him. And now all of a sudden the Clippers actually do up their offer. And it's something that the Sixers are willing to do. And they get something back for Harden, and Harden ends up where he wants. And they get something back that's legitimate. I'm just saying, like, everyone talks about it as a one-team race, and it may very well be that way the whole time. However, teams tend to be interested in guys who are like really good. Like James Harden still has an all-NBA season left in him.
Then why did we get to this point in the offseason after a trade demand and no one's traded for him?
Because he only wants to go to the Clippers.
So it's okay.
And so people are scared.
So it just takes one person to not be scared a month before training camp.
Yeah. Okay. Or a month into training camp. Or a month after training camp, I'm in.
So he's not reporting to the Sixers, right?
No, I think he is reporting to the Sixers.
So you think he'll be in training camp with the Sixers?
He has to be.
Ben Simmons didn't. The guy went to China and called Daryl Morey a liar.
I know, but there is a rule in the CBA that says that if an upcoming free agent does not report, then he loses his right to free agency.
So he has to go. So that's right. Simmons did go to the practice. And
he went.
Yeah, that's right.
He went, and then Doc threw him out.
Yeah,
Simmons showed up. And then he didn't report for a couple of days. He finally showed up, and then Doc
sent him home.
I think Doc sent him home.
Doc threw him home. Yeah. So James Harden would have to like Marshawn Lynch this, where he just reports, I'm just here so I don't get fined, and then wear street clothes and a fat suit for a month until he gets traded or sent home for that matter.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah. Or maybe he just does what he did in Houston, which is he shows up when he wants to show up. He flies in from Vegas parties and
the James Harden end in Houston is they've been doing a series on Netflix, the Untold documentaries. I would sign up for a James Harden Untold stories about his departure from Houston, his departure from Brooklyn, and now his departure from Philly, like way down the road.
James Harden is probably the only NBA player who I would watch a documentary about that never ever mentioned that he was a basketball player.
Right. Like I don't need to see a single basketball clip. You
don't even have to mention that he's in the NBA.
Nope.
Like if you never mention he's in the NBA, I would still watch a documentary about James Harden.
Agreed.
And just see how that guy does it.
Well, obviously,
at some point, the amazing James Harden stories will be written.
Mm-hmm.
And they are amazing.
Well, hopefully you get to write.
They're not mine to tell. They're not mine to tell.
No, don't put it past yourself. You already know you're like in waiting to write the Westbrook biography.
No, right? I just mean I have a rule that, like, people who I cover, their personal business, if it's not scandalous, if it's nothing illegal, if it's nothing, improper, it's like, I've seen players out, like when I was in OKC, there was one bar and one club in the whole place that everyone would go to. And I was in my mid-20s and single for a lot of it, and would go out and would see players out all the time. And I'm just not going to report that a player's like out drinking before a game, stuff like that. However, they are phenomenal barroom stories. Some of these stories, I mean, they are legendary, and it's an incredible thing to hear.
I feel like I know a former Knicks beat writer who would report that, but that's another story for another day. Fred Katz of The Athletic, always nice to give us his time, always so gracious with his time, even in the middle of the summer. Fred, please tell everybody where they could find you and all your work and what you got coming up. I'm sure you'll be covering this lawsuit, as you mentioned, very thoroughly. So where can people find all that stuff? Yeah,
you can find me on The Athletic. You won't see that much work from me coming up, to be honest. I'm pretty much in the chill mode right now. So I'll be reporting on the lawsuit. I'll have something probably leading into the World Cup. A story I actually need to finish prepping for it, but I'm going to watch like a lot of RJ games and that kind of stuff from the exhibitions and some of the other guys, and write something either about RJ and kind of what to expect once this thing starts, this weekend, or on all the guys and what to expect from them, Hart and Brunson and Fournier too.
Can I ask you one question about FIBA? What did you think of RJ's comment, "The rim's wide open," when people asked why he's having such success in FIBA?
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't watched enough of his games yet. I was going to watch a bunch of them once we got off the podcast and really come up with some thoughts. But I will answer that in a story. I mean, his numbers have been fantastic.
He's been outstanding. Yeah. Really been efficient too, which is what you want to see,
I mean, a 13 for 14 game.
Mm-hmm. Against the Germany team that Team USA needed to come back against,
Yeah. I mean, look, the game is so international now. You look at these teams and you're like, oh, they're playing Germany. And then you look at Germany's roster and you're like, this is literally all NBA players.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like an actual NBA. This is an NBA team. This is a real NBA team. This is not the dream team annihilating Angola.
There's no Barcelona Olympics now.
Exactly. Like these are good teams. So I'm very intrigued to see what I learn, because the numbers are spectacular. We all know RJ's got a good work ethic. We all know that his head is in the right place. The things that I will be looking out for, I can say, are how are the baskets coming? Are they coming because he's just going up against guys who aren't as strong as him and he's just muscling his way to the rim and getting there? Are they coming because he just happens to be hitting a few jump shots that seem unsustainable? Or are they coming because his process is different? Are they coming because his reads when he goes to the rim, he's taking the right shots? So often we see him go to the rim, 3 defenders collapse on him, and he just like tries to throw up a floater or a layup. One thing with him that I've always wondered, like in a playoff series, like you should really help from the wing when he drives instead of the corner, which is convention. It might be really hard. Maybe some coach would tell me that I'm an idiot for saying this, but he never kicks to the wings. He kicks to the corners though. And I want to know, like, is he making the right read? when he gets to the nail, like, is he going to find a guy in the wing? Because that I've always thought, and this is a big Tibbs thing. Tibbs made this point to me originally, and it was a really interesting observation. He was saying, like, RJ's efficiency as a scorer is more about his reads than it is about his touch or his jumper. And he was saying, like, those, basically what he said, and he said it less harsh than the way that I'm going to say it, but to paraphrase his point, it was that when RJ goes to the rim and he misses the wide open guy on the corner and the wing or whatever, or he doesn't see that somebody's coming over to help and he puts up a shot, that's an unnecessarily difficult shot that he's taking. When he reads the game better and the assists go up, maybe even the assists don't go up, he just starts making the intuitive passes, all the percentages are going to go up too. Because he's not necessarily going to make more difficult shots. He's just going to eliminate a lot of the unnecessarily difficult shots. And I think that's a really interesting point. And I think he's absolutely right. And it's something that I look out for in RJ's development a lot. I actually think it's something that we really saw. I thought was the most noticeable part of his playoff performance. Like, that was the biggest change in his playoff performance, I think. Him eliminating the unnecessarily difficult shots. Him being able to get to his spots, and when he didn't get to his spots, no, okay, I'm not in my spot, and then making the right play. I thought that was so noticeable because he was really awesome for most of that playoff run. And I want to see if that continues. I also want to see if he's any quicker. He looked slow at times last year.
No, you've reported a lot this offseason. You've even just said to us and our audience, like, one of the things he said he wanted to do this offseason is get quicker. So,
I want to see if we did it.
Shout out to Fred Katz for always being awesome and giving us his time. Thank you, Fred, as always, for coming on.
I'm always happy to come on.